Why do men have to be masculine? This is a question that has been intriguing me a lot lately, so I decided to look into it a little more. This particular episode I feel was very important for me to make, not only because I feel this topic is interesting, but also because of just how massive the subject of gender and feminism is in today's society, along with, of course, equal rights. It's not too often that you see a woman like myself speaking out about manly stereotypes and the male expectations. I, of course, just want to say that I am a woman, and so I obviously don't fully understand the stereotypes and expectations that men have, but I am very interested in this and wanted to share my thoughts on the subject. Now, of course, to start this all off, one of the biggest reasons why it has been drilled into our culture, I think anyway, that men have to be strong and manly is because of our traditional values. And I've mentioned this previously with my podcasts. Many of us are just simply stuck in our own ways and believe that we should always follow the traditions of society, of our world. But there are others, of course, that are on the other end of the spectrum that think that we should embrace change and we should be allowed to change and develop as human beings and a human race. It's tradition, of course, as we know, that placed women in the rut of the vulnerable, weak housewife role, unable to go to work and financially support their families. Traditionally, males are the opposite. They are subjected to having to be strong all of the time. They are seen as the strong gender who, in order to be a real man, you're not allowed to showcase your emotions. And the male, stereotypically and traditionally, are the supporters of the family financially. Typically, of course, it's the women who would stay at home, they would cook, clean, look after the children, whilst the men would go out to work, they would work hard all day for hours and look after the family in the money side of life. Emotionally, I think men were traditionally seen as the stronger sex and weren't the ones to be looking after the children and bringing the children up and home. Whereas now, bringing it back into the present day, society and things have changed somewhat. However, we are still, I think, very much stuck in our ways. And I feel like we're kind of in this weird limbo where we're trying to fight for change and equality. But the other hand, we're still stuck in our own ways and perhaps we're not quite ready to let go of our traditional values. Of course, men are very much capable of looking after children and their families, not just financially either. With more single parent families than ever before, I think more men are definitely playing the traditional role that would have been traditionally been the female role. Or there are more men than ever playing the roles of both parents, just like there are more single women who have children who are trying to juggle the roles of both parents as well. Often, they're juggling their lives between going to work and parenting as well. And this is the same for both sexes, like I just mentioned. And of course, because of single parents and our family, we are changing the roles of genders, and the gender roles are more mixed than they ever have been before, which I think is good because it shows that we do want to change these horrible traditions of, certain genders have to be certain ways. Why do we have to judge people only on traditional stereotypes and their gender expectations? But just like women haven't yet been able to rid themselves of their gender stereotype baggage, men can't seem to either. I am someone who hopes for an equal community. It's not for me about one gender being superior to the other. It's about being equal. It's about being paid equal, having equal opportunities, and not having these traditions and stereotypes burden us. In an article actually written by The Guardian, which I'll link down below in the description box for you to look at if you're interested, it actually states that more than 80% of fathers still work full time. This percentage rises to almost 85% for dads who have very young children. No, I'm not saying that once you're a mother or you're a father, you should never work again. I'm simply saying that there needs to be equality, and we perhaps shouldn't judge people as much. And, every situation is not black and white. And I feel like these traditional stereotypes are labeling things as being black or white. And not everyone's life is black and white. I just want to say as well that those percentages have not actually changed much in the past 20 years. The article continues to say that new rights for fathers to share parental leave with mothers have poor take-up rates, which is almost telling dads that perhaps they shouldn't take time to get to know their newborn child or to get used to being in that fatherly role. The kind of gender stereotyping that I'm speaking about here is still very apparent when women give birth. The difference between how much time a woman can have off for maternity leave is often much more considerate than paternity leave for men. My cousin actually recently gave birth and her partner only got off about 3 weeks and then he was forced back into work. And some men get less than that. I've heard of men getting a few days and then they got to go straight back to work. And that screams tradition, that the women are the homemakers and the men are the financial support going off to work. It's almost telling society that men are almost unable to be the homemaker. Balancing work and parenthood is difficult, of course, but it is made even harder when we're forced to cope with these gender role stereotypes. In the exact same article, there's a quote from a father who says, "There is a stigma when people see you doing a role that isn't traditional. It can impact on your personal life," which I completely agree with. I mean, I think companies and our society just in general needs to be a lot more understanding of different people's situations and stereotypes so that we can move forward. What does it mean to be a man in the present day? Because, of course, another common stereotype and expectation for today's men is to hide their emotions and be strong, not just physically, but mentally as well. And a lot of people believe that a real man would never cry, and if he did, he would be told to man up. And this can be perceived as incredibly toxic, and I completely agree with that. So I go back to the question that I started with. Why do men have to be masculine? A lot of what both men and women have to be is heavily influenced by the media and the world around us. Think of films, think of video games, all of those things. The men are often perceived to be the ones who don't show emotion. They are physically strong, mentally strong, and they are the support of the household financially. I mean, they're even often portrayed as the ones who rescue women. And I think it's important to note here with this topic and similar gender-related topics is that men and women are different. I would love equality between male and females, but both genders are wired very differently. And it's important, I think, to learn from each other and to understand each other's situations. So what is exactly a real man? I actually found a really interesting piece on the internet. It was on a religious page for Jehovah's Witnesses, and that page asks that question. And looking into it, I actually found it very interesting to read, and it's all about leaving behind being a boy and developing into a man. And it discusses the misconceptions about what a real man is, and it challenges the traditions of gender expectations. The link will be in the description box below if you want to go check that out. Obviously, you're more than welcome to. But it goes back to this question, and I still can't understand it. But why do men have to be masculine And of course, the same goes for women. Why do we as females have to be feminine? The stereotype that is feminine. What do you guys think on this? I am so interested in this. This is something that I can talk about for ages and ages and ages. But what does it mean to be masculine in today's ever-changing world? What does it mean to be a real man? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. If you like this video, make sure to leave it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my podcast. I really, really appreciate it. If you're new here, click on that subscribe button, and I really hope to see you guys in my next video.